Good morning. You are watching QTV This Morning. I am Ibrahim Balde. We apologize for starting late. Due to the heavy pour. Most people, they were rushing to get here early. But we apologize. And of course, it's QTV This Morning. And on the program today, we'll be doing, business as usual. And I'm joined by my boss himself, Mr. Ade. Ade, welcome.
It's a pleasure always. I was going to interrupt you when you said business as usual because today I am being both a co-host and the newspaper reviewer.
Absolutely.
And other things. So it's not business as usual. So normally the same person doesn't do both.
It's going to change at some point, a certain segment. But
sure.
You're going to co-host. At the same time, you're going to do the newspaper review.
That's correct.
And it's good to have you here all the time.
Yes.
And of course, viewers, today we'll be looking at the African proverb as usual, and we'll be doing the newspaper review, and there'll be a live view from the SIS training facility in Banjulinding, and Loli Kamara will be there, to let us know all the happenings, all the things that are happening at the moment at Banjulinding SIS training facility. And on social issues, we'll be talking to Alieu Ceesay live from Nigeria. As you know, Alieu, for the past, for almost a week now, he's in the Republic of Nigeria, attending the ECOWAS Parliament, and important discussions are made at that Parliament, and we'll be asking Alieu some of the things discussed and what are the outcomes of that summit. And we'll be having the entertainment segment, and Churchill Balde will be here with the guest. And
Kingsman Churchill.
Yes, Kingsman Churchill today.
Yes.
Mr. Ade, let's start with the African proverb. Actually, the reason why we put this proverb up here.
Yes.
This proverb confused me.
Oh, okay.
Yes. An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Now, you see, every time I come on this program, I always have a contention with the African proverb. And I always say to them, I want to know where this came from, which African country. Now, you see, if this was an African proverb, really, it would say a kaba a day, or a mango, a day,
or an orange a day,
or a banana a day, or a plantain a day keeps the doctor away,
or even a yam a day.
Exactly. But to get to the core of the proverb, I'm not sure why it confuses you. This proverb has always been about eating healthily, and so it's always been said that if you eat healthily, you will stay healthy. Actually, and so you keep the doctor away.
Actually, I've been hearing this proverb since I was a small boy during my school days.
We all.
Yes, but I've not even made any effort to ask. I don't know why.
But that's what it's about, because essentially they started using it when they wanted children to get away from eating sweets. And, sweets end up rotting your teeth if you don't, and so to encourage healthy eating, this phrase came into being, that an apple a day keeps the doctor away, because apples sort of signify something healthy and wholesome, and that's where this comes from, and that's what they're getting.
I've realized something, Mr. Ade. All the sweet things that doctors are telling us to avoid eating. All these things, all the food stuff that doctors are telling us not to eat, they are very sweet. They are good. They taste very good.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because on the way in this morning I heard a report. They were talking about children getting type 2 diabetes in huge numbers for the first time in the United Kingdom, and they put this down to the fact that a lot of children are now eating lots of sweet things, lots of processed foods that are not naturally found in the environment. So they're moving away from eating fruits and vegetables. They're eating a lot of sweets, and this is now leading to, they said it's been unprecedented for children to have type 2 diabetes, where insulin in your body is not produced properly, and of course the consequences can be quite alarming. And so although this is a new phenomenon, what they've also decided is that for an adult to get type 2 diabetes, you can control it with diet and it can disappear completely. with children, because it's so new with children, they don't know whether they'll be able to control it in children and allow it to disappear. And if it doesn't, then of course the consequences could be quite severe, leading to blindness and all sorts of other problems. So an apple a day definitely will keep the doctor away.
At some point I realized, I mean, people associate diabetes as a sickness for the rich people. I mean, according to what they say. I
Yes.
mean, diabetes, you avoid certain foods that are cheap in Africa,
Yes.
and you keep using foods that are very difficult to get. For example, let's talk about the local meat chere. It's made from coos. I mean, this is a food that is good for diabetic people.
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
That's
so
right.
if you
Yeah.
keep eating that all the time, and you know the expenditure to produce that, I mean, it's really costly.
It's again, to go back to this UK report, and this was completely just the fact that I heard it on the radio as I was coming in this morning. What they're saying is that the reason for their concern is that a lot of the people who are eating these sweet stuff and processed food are the poorest people. And so this high incidence of diabetes that they're now finding amongst children are in people in the most deprived areas of the United Kingdom. And so it sort of turns on its head the fact that in Africa, those who are poor will buy the kind of local produce. They can't afford all the processed foods and all these kind of stuff that kind of have lots of added sugar in them, which are not good for them. So in a way, that's good that, you know, in Africa, touch wood, at the moment, we don't have that problem. But I think that's, you know, you're right that people always associated it with richer people, people who could afford all this kind of processed stuff that you find in supermarkets rather than in your local market. But, you know, people should try, if they can, to eat healthily. This morning I had 2 apples, which one of my former bosses would not like, because he used to say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, 2 apples a day will make you fat, which is not true. I mean, you know, 2 apples a day are not going to put weight onto you, but he used to say it as a joke. But it's about eating healthily, and we should all try and eat healthily, eat organic stuff if we can. And in many of our countries, we grow lots of organic food because we can't afford the kind of, you know, fertilizers that are kind of, you know, potentially not good for you, and so we grow stuff organically, and that's good. Again, that is healthy for you, and that keeps you well and healthy.
Yes, interesting. It's as much as it's good to control the foods that you eat. I mean, it's important. I mean, trying to abusing certain things, it's not good for your health. Even when it is a healthy food, I mean, abusing it. Imagine taking 10 apples, you know, in a day. What it can cause, well, too much of everything is bad, Mr. Ade.
Well, this is it, because even the apples have sugars in them naturally. And so, you know, with me, as soon as I've finished an apple, I will go and I'll brush my teeth, because otherwise these things, they remain, you know, the sugars remain in your teeth and in your gums, and that can end up being problematic. And for somebody who had a lot of problem with my teeth because I used to eat a lot of sweet stuff. I must
told
admit.
my children to stop buying sweets. I mean, the other day I said to my second boy, open your mouth, and he opened his mouth. I was surprised to see what the sugar did to his teeth in his mouth. I mean,
yes.
Sometimes they buy sweet and just bite it. They'll be chewing the sweet, and
Sure.
at the end of the time, it can cause a whole lot of damage.
It really can. I have a goddaughter who lives in America. She's now a doctor, but growing up, her mother never bought sweets for her, never allowed her to eat sweets. Even if she went to a children's party, she would tell her, don't, if they give you a package of, you know, to take away and there's sweets, she would just throw it away. And so she grew up, and she had perfect teeth.
Absolutely.
And still does. And she's now, I don't know, 40 years old. You know,
Well,
so,
well, I was surprised too. There was a dentist that we invited here. I can remember when Jenaba was here. We asked the dentist, what do you think it's the color of?
Dr. Oni from Sharab.
What's the
I
color?
remember he did my teeth.
What's the color of teeth? The doctor said, it should be yellow.
Yellow.
Mr. Ade, for us basically, I mean, we think teeth are supposed to be white.
And when you, if you grow up as I did in the days in the 60s, when you went to cinemas, Colgate, Pepsodent used to advertise before films came on. Would you like your teeth to be as white as chalk? And then they'd show somebody brushing to get their teeth white. And so that was the kind of aspiration. But if you drink tea, if you drink coffee, all these things, they sort of slightly start to yellow your teeth. Americans used to laugh at the British, say the British had bad teeth, because the Americans, they used to wear braces. Like somebody will be 20 years old, they're still wearing braces, and they used to be obsessive about getting their teeth to be white. But the dentist was correct. The natural color of the human being's teeth is slightly yellow.
Well, there's a place in Senegal. It's a very famous place, Kaolack. I mean, most people that are origin of Kaolack, all their teeth are yellow. Or I mean, at some point they'll go to the extent of becoming black. I mean, they'll be like according to what they said. I mean, the water in Kaolack is salty. So normally there is no other option except you drink that water. So the water
and brush your teeth with salty water. It
changed their teeth. I mean, most of them we call them. Are you from Kaolack? Yes, that's why you have Kaolack teeth. Yeah.
I see. Yeah. I hadn't heard that before.
Exactly.
Okay. But there's yellow and there's very yellow. So maybe there's probably very
Don't allow your teeth to go to very yellow stage. I mean, that's the disaster there.
Indeed.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ade. I mean,
pleasure.
It's good to learn. It's good to know certain things. I mean, we'll take a short break. After the break, then we'll go straight to the newspaper review. We'll be back.
As the fastest growing GSM company in the Gambia, QCell has the widest 4G plus coverage in the country, 3 times faster internet speed than our competitors. So switch now and dial *335# and enjoy what true 4G feels like. QCell, the Gambia's trusted network.
Welcome back. You're watching QTV this morning, and of course, wherever you're watching us from, we're just starting. If you miss what we discussed here, you can go to our website, you can go to our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. You will be able to see the things discussed here. And we'll go to the newspaper review now. We have the Voice newspaper, and it reads, I mean, mortality rate declines by 10.3 per 100,000 population, direct to health research. And of course, trafficked Gambian women repatriated from Oman. President Barrow receives diplomats across the globe, and Bundung Kadikod accused of injustice. Turkey's Katmesila exports armored land vehicle to the Gambia. And best ever cabinet retreat. VP Juve put colleagues on their toes. With Truth says, if you want, let the president take me out.
Interesting one there, and we'll come on to that hopefully. On the Foroya, first of all, I have 2 newspapers just to be greedy. And before I go into the newspapers, shout out and hello to our colleague Jennifer Sonko, who's not with us this morning, and we hope she'll be back occupying her seat soon.
Definitely.
So yes, so Jennifer, I hope all is well. And on the top left, I have, they're going through the TRRC report and its recommendations, and it says TRRC recommends Jammeh's prosecution for unlawful arrest, detention, torture of religious leaders. And then a nice one here, 30.5 million Brikama new market to be completed this month. And we had other stuff about a different Brikama market. And youth demand their inclusion, participation in decision making. These youth, they're always demanding stuff. NHRC recommends prohibition of caste system in our country's laws. 5 ambassadors present letters of credence to the president. I think you mentioned that. The deadly price of the timber business. This is an editorial, a very interesting one. Again, I hope we'll have time to come on to that. And here, I like this one. Are the environmental agency authorities in touch with the fisher folks and oyster harvesters in the Faraba Bonto stretch? Why did they ask this question? We might be able to find out. So that's Foroya. And then on to the point. Gach Global boss Abubakar Jawara continues testimony in GAM Petroleum trial, long-running one. And this one, it says, no Gambian among the first UK-Rwanda deportation flight. And I definitely hope we can come to this story. And the study recommends establishment of mortality surveillance system in the Gambia. Again, you mentioned that. Government partly accepts protection of media freedom Why partly? We might be able to find out. And IGP's nationwide tour reaches climax. It sounds like Yusundu's world tour reaches climax.
The ending.
Nationwide tour.
The ending.
The ending, indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if I can just go to the back here, because I think it's an important one, and we're hoping to have a report on it. Madam Barrow, that is the First Lady, launches regional campaign against obstetric fistula in URR.
Obstetric fistula.
Yes, very difficult one to say. So, shall I start?
Absolutely. Let's roll. Let's rock and roll.
So I wanted to start with this one, which says no Gambian among the first UK-Rwanda deportation flight. And guess what? Not only are there no Gambians there, there's nobody there, because the flight at the last minute was cancelled because of yet another legal challenge to it going ahead, and so the flight never took off. And so the British government have had to pay £500,000 for a flight that has gone absolutely nowhere. And even had it gone, they were only expecting 7 people, not 50.
7 people.
7, because there have been legal challenges to the whole thing.
Why do you think, I mean, it's extended to another hearing again? I mean, I can remember that was the last, the last hearing. It's supposed to be the last hearing before they carry out this thing.
Now, we all thought it was the last hearing, but because the British Parliament and government had signed up to judgments by the European Court of Human Rights, somebody took the case to the European Court of Human Rights, and the judge there issued a banning order saying this flight cannot take off until I see all the facts about it. And so now this has created another debate in the UK. You see, the UK and the British government, they love human rights until it impacts upon them. And now they are saying that they're going to withdraw from the European Human Rights Court because they don't like this sort of thing. So you see, it's always nice when it's applied to African leaders or African countries and so on, but when it applies to them, they don't like it and they want to withdraw. Isn't that interesting? So that's where we find ourselves. The flight has gone absolutely nowhere. So yeah.
Well, you've mentioned something very significant here. I mean, the West, I mean, when certain human rights conditions are put upon them, I mean, they do not like it.
They're hypocrites.
Then why don't you think? Don't you think that's the reason why African leaders or African countries are not trying to avoid or are not taking heed of certain things that are put on them too by the West?
For example, you can take the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's interesting in the ECOWAS Parliament. Now, they haven't called it an invasion, they haven't called it a war, they refer to it as a military operation. Now, the only people referring to it as a military operation happen to be the Russians. So in a way, they've kind of taken sides by using the Russian term. They could have just said a conflict, and that's, you're not taking side, because that's a fact, it's a conflict. But if you use the terminology, the Russian military operation in the Ukraine, then you are siding with Russia, because Russia are the only ones who are calling it that. And in fact, in Russia, you get arrested if you call it a war or a conflict or anything else. So that's quite interesting. But yes, and the reason I say they're hypocritical is that many of these countries, United States of America, Britain, you will never see any of their officials or these countries being dragged up in front of any of these international courts in the way that Gambia, for example, took Myanmar to the International Court of Justice. America and Britain would just dismiss it. They're so arrogant that they think they are above even these international courts. And we have to call them out on it, because they want us to be bound by those courts, but not them. You know, for them, they say, oh, we can judge ourselves. Well, no, you can't.
Well, I think most people are realizing that now. When you look at it, certain things, or certain people that are taken to the ICC, most of it is, they are from Africa.
80 or 90% are Africans.
Are Africans. I mean, you know,
Africans are the only ones committing human rights crimes.
I mean, it's very rare. I mean, atrocities are committed by the West themselves.
Of course.
But I mean, these things are put under the carpet. Nobody sees them.
Of course.
You know, so human right and certain things, sometimes it's just a whitewash. I mean, to sometimes to get money, or sometimes just to fool people.
Yeah, I don't know about to get money, because really, for human lives and dignity, everybody should be entitled to their human rights, and those human rights should not be abused. So I don't think it's about getting money, but it should be across the board. if somebody has broken the law in terms of, you know, oppressing somebody, victimizing somebody, then that law should be universal. It shouldn't just cherry pick either African countries or small countries. We're not the only ones who commit these crimes. But why are they the only ones who get sent before these courts? We all know why. Because these big countries have the clout to prevent or just dismiss the court and say, we're not going in front of it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it's an unfair system. So, you know, we started by talking about this flight. The flight itself has caused a lot of controversy. It's divided opinion in Britain. I mean, those who think that it's a good thing, they're in support of it. But again, as you know, one does, listening to the radio coming in this morning, they were asking, you know, how do Rwandan people feel? Because what the Rwandan government have said is that when these people go there as refugees, they will be allowed to work. And they said that if any of them are suitably qualified, they can even apply for Rwandan government jobs. And then they asked the question, how do Rwandans feel about this? Well, Rwanda, for all the fact that we praise it, people might be too scared to come out and criticize it because, you know, Paul Kagame and his government are so firmly in support of it. And so Rwandans who get asked about it said, yes, we welcome these people and we will welcome them to our country, even if they come here and they get jobs. If I'm Rwandan or Rwandese, as they sometimes call themselves, and I'm looking for a job and I can't get one, and then somebody comes in, it might be problematic.
Well, I am pretty sure as much as in Rwanda, it's growing, and people are praising them among fast-growing economy in Africa.
Sure.
I mean, I am pretty sure when you look at their unemployment rate, I mean,
it's not terribly high.
It's not terribly high, but at least there are Rwandans that are not working.
In every country,
yes.
Of course, yes, yes.
I mean, Mr. Ade, can you just take us through, for the interest of our viewers, I mean,
sure.
Why do you think the UK government is trying to send these people to Rwanda?
It's
who are the people that they are picking?
It's interesting you say that. Now, many of the people they're picking, for example, they've taken in, I don't know, 150,000 Ukrainians because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. However, people from Yemen, people from Afghanistan, people from Iran, Iraq, and so on, other countries where there were conflicts, from Ethiopia, some of those people will end up getting sent to Rwanda. Why are they not sending Ukrainians there? Some of it is to do naked racism, because for the conservative government who are now in power, this appeals to their core people, you know, the people who support them, and they think, oh, these people are coming here, and you know, they're coming here, they're taking their jobs, or they're getting, you know, benefits and so on. Well, guess what? Even if you send them to Rwanda, you're having to pay for them to be sent there. You're having to pay for their accommodation, etc., etc. So I'm not even sure what it is. They don't want people with black and brown faces coming to their country, essentially, is what it's about. That's, you know, kind of what's behind this. So they can dress it any way they want it, but that's the truth. And they know that for their core supporters, that's what they like to hear. You know, and that's who they're appealing to. You know, don't send these people here, send them somewhere else. You know, so really, like I said, they can dress it any way they want it. You know, we don't want these people coming here, taking jobs, but you're having to spend $500,000 on every flight. You're having to pay for their accommodation when they get to Rwanda. You're having to pay £200 million over the next 5 years to the Rwandan government. That's a lot of money too.
Why do you think Paul Kagame, I mean, accepts, I mean, this offer of taking these people to Rwanda?
That's harder to quantify, because Kagame, it's not the first time he's done it, and previously he's done it without any money. So when people were being oppressed in Afghanistan and were being attacked and were being killed, they took them in, and nobody paid them for that. He just did it as a humanitarian gesture. This one is not a humanitarian gesture alone, although he's saying it is both that and they're going to get some funding from it. But I'm still not clear. And I follow Paul Kagame on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Flickr, where he posts photographs of all the people he meets every day. So I've been trying to get a sense of why he's doing it, and I'm no clearer, even though I've been following him for the last 2 or 3 years. I'm no clearer as to whether he's really made the case as to why he's done this. Like I said, you know, both sides are trying to dress it up as a humanitarian gesture. And for the British government, they're doing it to dissuade people, to stop people from coming. Because if you think that you go on a boat across the English Channel from France to England and you'll end up in Rwanda, all these people who are trafficking, the ones who are trafficking people, they're not going to stop. But the people who are paying the traffickers might stop paying them to be trafficked if they think they're going to end up in Rwanda. And so they're trying to, this is a statement that they're making. You come here thinking you're going to end up in England, get a nice house, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to get it. You're going to end up in Rwanda, and so on. So what they've agreed is that even the people who get sent to Rwanda will not come from any of the countries that are neighboring Rwanda, because that wouldn't make sense. You know, you've fled that area. So, which is why at first it was thought that there were going to be some Senegambian people from the Senegambian region on there. But that's kind of why they've done it.
We'll come back to that. I mean, I am told that Alieu Ceesay is on the line from Abuja, and we'll talk to him. As you know, for the past week, Alieu is in Nigeria attending the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja. Hello, Alieu.
Hello, Ibrahim Abande.
Good morning.
Sorry, good morning. Sunny morning from Abuja, Bande. Thank you so much for having me on the program today.
It's good to hear your voice. Did you take some fufu and egusi?
Egusi soup.
Egusi and bitter leaf?
Not yet. Not for breakfast anyway.
Yes. So, Alieu, for the past days, I mean, you've been in Abuja attending the ECOWAS Parliament. Can you tell us some of the things that are discussed on that Parliament?
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Abande and Mr. Ade. A quite interesting discussion there on the issue of Rwanda, Africans being sent to Rwanda from UK. But like you said, I mean, back to the ECOWAS Parliament here in Abuja. I mean, ECOWAS parliamentarians have been meeting here for a week now. I mean, trying to discuss issues affecting the sub-region, from the issue of the COVID-19 to security, which is topping the agenda here as parliamentarians discuss issues affecting the sub-region. Of course, the issue of agriculture. I mean, these are all issues that the community parliamentarians have been taking their time to discuss as they continue to receive messages from. The latest was the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Cassibro, who yesterday presented the state of the current state of affairs in the sub-region. I mean, going through his report, you realize that, I mean, security still remains a concern in the sub-region, and this is something that so many of the parliamentarians here believe. I mean, the sub-region should start moving from commitment to action, and so they join forces, and so they are able to address the issue of security in the sub-region. And in terms of democracy, I mean, this is something that, according to the president of the ECOWAS Commission, the sub-region is doing well, citing the fact that, I mean, 12 countries are doing their best to entrench democracy in their countries. This actually includes the Gambia and Cape Verde, who have conducted what the outgoing president said was a free, fair, and transparent parliamentary and presidential elections in their respective countries. However, there are still some challenges in some countries. I mean, as you have been following news, the issue of Guinea, I mean, Mali and Burkina Faso, where we have coup d'etat, and then ECOWAS is still trying to see how best it can help in restoring democratic rule. I mean, there's still challenge, but I mean, according to the outgoing president, he's still hopeful that the ongoing negotiations will bear fruit. And then the other thing that he also talked about was the issue of the Gambia, the economic say in the country, that the economic will still be there to help, and so I mean the country is stable, and the ECOWAS is also preparing to send a stabilization mission to Guinea-Bissau, knowing the fact that a couple of months ago there was an attempted coup to remove the current president there, Umaru Sissoco Embalo. Aside from that, Bande, I mean, the issue of security, like I said, I mean, the issue of terrorist attacks in the sub-region is something, and kidnapping as well, it is something that these committee parliamentarians are really worried about. But something that is really a talking point here is we had the commission on agriculture, Sangare at the ECOWAS Commission, who came to make a presentation, and then the issue of fertilizer, I mean, is really a concern here. I mean, knowing the fact that as a result of the Ukraine-Russia war, I mean, we have seen that there's a scarcity as far as fertilizer is concerned. I mean, for the sub-region, I mean, this is something that they believe, I mean, ECOWAS, so have been able to address this issue. I mean, we have factories, we have big fertilizer manufacturing companies within the sub-region, the likes of Dangote, who are exporting 80% of their fertilizer to Latin America. So they believe, I mean, the sub-region has what it takes to really sustain itself, and it is high time that it starts looking inwards to ensure that able to address their problems and not to rely on the outside world. I mean, for them, the war in Russia, in Ukraine, I mean, shouldn't have that huge impact on the continent as far as agriculture is concerned. For example, one of the members of the Gambia's delegation, Alieu Ceesay, I mean, he recommended why not we go back to organic manure, and then instead of just depending on this chemical manure. I mean, these are some of the suggestions that are coming in. And then, I mean, for the other MPs in terms of security, it is high time that these African countries come together and see how best they can really synchronize their military training to be able to effectively respond to the menace of terrorism and other security challenges facing the sub-region.
Well, I've also heard the dissolved Parliament Speaker of Guinea-Bissau. He said ECOWAS heads should act before they start firefighting.
Yes, that's Cipriano Gassama, who is the Speaker of the dissolved Bissau Parliament. I mean, I understand according to the constitution of the Bissau Parliament, once the Parliament is dissolved, the Speaker and the other standing committees remain until a new Parliament is elected, and that is why we have the delegation of the Guinea-Bissau Parliament are also here attending this session. But like he said, I mean, he was just trying to emphasize the importance of the community parliament in addressing some of the looming crisis that the sub-region is facing. And that's why, I mean, he had also joined other speakers, like the Speaker of the Parliament of the Gambia, Babagatan Mangjata, and of course the Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Sidi Mohamed Tunis, in advocating the need for us to start having our parliamentarians elected directly by the people. Because, I mean, the problem here about it is, I mean, most of these parliamentarians, I mean, they come from the National Assembly. But then, I mean, sometimes, I mean, because of politics, I mean, they don't tend to discuss issues as they should be discussed. I mean, for example, if you have a delegation that is coming from a particular country, and then you are from the ruling party of that particular country, and you are to present a report on the situation in your country. If that report is somehow controversial of the sitting government, I mean, you wouldn't really be active in presenting that report because you are from the ruling party. But having people elected directly by the people to come and represent them at the community level, then their loyalty is to the people who elected them, and not, I mean, perhaps the ruling party or the party you are aligned to back at your National Assembly. And this is something that, I mean, so many people, especially the current Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Sidi Mohamed Tunis of Sierra Leone, is really pushing for us to start having our ECOWAS parliamentarians elected directly by the people to come and represent the people of ECOWAS, and not just coming from the National Assemblies of the respective ECOWAS countries.
Interesting. And Alieu, before the end of this session, what do you think? I mean, what conclusions are you expecting?
Well, I mean, what I'm expecting is that at the end of this session, parliamentarians will come out with concrete recommendations as to how best the sub-region should be able to address some of the diverse challenges it is confronted with, from security to agriculture, health. I mean, these are all issues that the sub-region really has a huge challenge. And then, I mean, considering the significant role of the ECOWAS Parliament, I mean, as an oversight body on the ECOWAS institutions, I mean, they should be able to really ensure that, I mean, all these ECOWAS institutions really get to work, and ensure the purpose for having ECOWAS is really realized as far as, ensuring that the free movement of people and goods, integration, peace and security are all achieved. But until then, ECOWAS parliamentarians are here discussing on issues as we speak right now. I just left the chamber. They have started receiving country reports from the respective delegations of the countries. Today we are having the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Togo, and Ghana are presenting their country report on the current state of affairs as far as democracy, human rights, security are concerned in their respective countries. Hopefully tomorrow we are going to have Gambia and other countries will follow suit. To make a similar presentation on the current state of affairs in their respective countries, and this will be followed by debates from the parliamentarians who might be asking questions if at all they disagree with any of the points made by the delegations as far as their countries are concerned, because this is ECOWAS and we all know what operates in each other's country. So if you come and try to give a story that doesn't truly represent what is on the ground in your country, then your colleagues might tend to challenge you as to, the facts on the ground. So that's exactly what is happening here, Banda.
Alieu Ceesay there from Nigeria, Abuja. Do you have anything for Alieu?
No, Alieu, I just wanted to ask a couple of things. I hope you can hear me. We talked about security, and I know that they've been talking about the possibility of having a standing ECOWAS army, and also in the ECO, the currency, the much delayed currency. I wonder if you can just give us an update on that, because I know this is something they've talked about frequently at this particular parliament.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Ade. This was something that was highlighted by the outgoing president of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Kassebo, yesterday. The issue of the ECO currency actually came up, and he informed the MPs that the launch of this ECO is now scheduled to 2027. I know you must be laughing there. This is something that has been going on every year. We are giving assurance of a new year that the ECO will be launched. But according to the president, they are still waiting to ensure that all the modalities required are met before they are able to launch the ECO. And now we are looking at 2027. I hope, this time around, they will really stick to the 2027. But until then, people will still be doubting as to whether 2027 will really hold. The fact that, this thing has been delayed for several years. And then that is something that, the ECOWAS parliamentarians are really looking forward to having the ECO launch. And you talk about the issue of security. Yes, indeed, security is something that according to the president, it's still a concern. He said, looking at the security situation in the South region is quite complex, and it is worsening. And for him, it is high time that, a new approach is taken to ensure, the South region is able to respond effectively, to the threats posed by terrorist activities, kidnapping, banditry here and there. That is something that he really emphasized in his statement. And also the issue of free movement of goods and services across the South region. He used his deliberation, which could perhaps be his last address to the parliamentarians, because I'm sure the ECOWAS heads of state are meeting on 3rd July in Accra for another summit where they might finally endorse Dr. Umar Toure of the Gambia, who is the Gambia speak for the presidency of the ECOWAS Commission, and then Jean-Claude Kassebo is now moving to another responsibility. But in terms of the free movement of goods, he talked about the issue of trying to ensure there's that unique ECOWAS visa that people can use to travel to enter all the ECOWAS countries, like you have in the Schengen. You have the Schengen visa. Once you have a Schengen visa, you can travel across Europe. These are some of the things that he believes could also help in addressing some of these challenges that people face as far as traveling across the sub-region is concerned. And he had made it very clear. He told the MPs that it is important that they play their role. It is high time they start helping in sensitizing their government and people to understand closing borders is not the solution. As if borders are closed between the two countries, it affects the entire region. And this is something that he will really love to see the MPs really, try to engage their government to ensure that closing of border is something of the past in the South region.
Yes, thank you very much, Alieu Ceesay, for talking to us on this morning.
Thank you, Alieu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ade and Mr. Bangle.
Alieu Ceesay there from Abuja in Nigeria, attending the ECOWAS Parliament. And we are hopeful at the end of the time, before the end of the sitting, they should be able to gather something very important. I mean, something that people can at least have confidence on.
For sure. I mean, and there are a lot of problems in the region. We have to be honest about it. We talked about security, and the security, even that is complex, as Alieu says.
Absolutely.
Because you're talking about terrorist attacks. You're also talking about the fact that we talk about free movement of people and goods. And yet you have somebody saying, okay, I tried to get from here to Senegal, to Conakry, Guinea-Conakry, and the people who stopped me and demanded money were people in uniforms. They were the police, they were the army.
Mr. Ade, I mean, it's one thing to put up the laws, but it's one thing where the people are going to respect the laws.
That's it.
If you say free movement of goods and people in Africa, I mean, I don't think it should be a problem.
Yeah,
carrying your goods in the Gambia or to Senegal should not be a problem. But we have this. I mean, implementing them is very important. But you've mentioned something very important, the issue of the ECHO.
Sure.
We are all expecting that, Mr. Ade, but it's dragged to 2027.
And if people remember, it should have launched in July 2020. We always thought it would be difficult to implement it, but not impossible, because if you look at the euro, which is used across the European Union, all the economies of all the countries that are members of the European, they're not all the same. And that's the excuse that they've been using for putting off the ECHO. You know, the modalities are not right and so on. But there are lots of things that need to be put in place, to make it happen, and to kind of make the situation where you can use it in every single country, because if it comes, it will be brilliant. So, they shouldn't be put off by the fact that, the Nigerian economy is 100,000 times the size of that of Gambia and so on. Well, in Europe, you have these disparities as well, and yet they all use the euro. So the ECHO, I mean, one is disappointed, but even though they're giving them what they've done, they've said that the reason they've said 2027 is to give people a more realistic target to work towards, rather than say it's going to be next year or the year after, and then everybody's disappointed. So, they've got, another 5 years to actually get everything in gear and plan for it and plan properly for it. So perhaps it
planning properly for it, it's very significant. I mean, when you look at the continent of Africa, we have all the resources, we have everything. But I mean, still, we are as slow as a chameleon.
Yes, and people get worried and upset when we are described as the poorest continent. Look, it's no use getting angry about it. What are we going to do about it? And so there are things that we need to put in place to make it happen. All these countries that have all these resources, they're not using them wisely. You look at a country like Angola, oil, look at the oil wealth of Angola. They have diamonds, they have gold. When you leave the capital, Luanda, which is the most expensive capital city anywhere in Africa, once you leave Luanda, the poverty is shocking. And yet, you had the former president's daughter, Isabel dos Santos, being branded as the richest woman in Africa. Personal wealth of $3.5 billion, all from stolen money. All that's been stripped away from her now. But that kind of abject, that disparity between the rich and the very poor was shocking. And there's a lot of that in Africa. So we really need to get our act together, because even when we have resources and people want those resources, we actually don't drive a hard bargain. If I have something to sell to you, and I know I'm the only one that has it, trust me, I will make you pay, not give it to you on the cheap. But that's what happens.
Yes, interesting. You're watching QTV this morning, and of course, we'll take Lolly Camara. At the moment, she's live in Banjulinding. She will be talking to us some of the activities that are currently ongoing at the training facility in Banjulinding. Hello, Lolly.
Hello, Mr. Wale. Good morning. And
good morning. It's good to see you. You look beautiful on TV this morning.
Thank you very much.
So tell us, what is happening at Banjulinding currently?
Thank you very much. Right now, we are in Banjulinding at the training facility, at the SIS training facility. You have a team of Nigerian students who are on a climate and security studies in the country at the moment, led by their commandant. For now, they are about to do the official opening, as you can see behind me. The team is set to be in the, they will be in the Gambia for a week long to do studies on the climate change and security issues. So we'll be talking to their head of a delegation to the country, who is their commandant. So I'll walk slowly to him to tell us more about their trip, because they will be in the Gambia for a period of 1 week.
Okay.
Mr. Balde.
All right. Let's hear from the commander.
Yeah. Yes. So, yes. So that's the commandant, head of delegation for the national security, or for the institutes from Nigeria. So he's Mr. Alieu Ceesay. So he will tell us more about the trip and the importance of this trip. Good morning, sir, and welcome to this morning's show. You're live on QTV.
Thank you very much. My name is A.S. Adeleke FSI Daga MNI. I'm the commandant of the National Institute for Security Studies, Lower Usman Dam, Abuja.
Tell us about your trip. How many of you have in the country, and for how long will you be here, and the importance of this study trip?
First and foremost, let me express our profound gratitude to my brother, the DG, SIS, the government and people of Gambia for honoring us, for inviting us to come for this important study tour. The National Institute for Security Studies will have a program of action, program to enhance the capacity of our security managers and captains of industry, as well as people in the media as well. Our collaboration with the SIS Gambia is yielding positive, making possible positive impact. What we are doing is that we want to capture as many people in our security net, and we can only do that by enhancing the capacity of security men. The theme, the institute has a theme every year chosen. The course starts from first week of February and ends by first week of December. Every year a theme is chosen for the program. This year's theme is on global climate challenge, prospects and priorities for economic development and conflict resolution in Africa. While we're doing that, the focus is on climate, because we're thinking that climate change will not do anything, or people may be saying that it's not very apt in this current situation we are in. But there has been contestation for land space. Trees are being felled on a daily basis for developmental purposes without thinking about the long-term effect of the climate change. And this is what we are researching into this year. And this is why we are on study tour. I'm leading a delegation of other, including myself. We are 26, the commandant, some faculty members, as well as participants from the institute, and they are members of Syndicate 5. As I speak to you, we have a group, a syndicate in Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and of course the South Africa. And we are also here. The 5th syndicate, we are in the Gambia. And so far so good. When we arrive on Monday or Tuesday morning, we've been well engaged, and we must thank our host, the DGSIS, for having a very good program of action for the participants as well as the faculty members. And of course you that is interviewing me too, you are also invited to join the train of ensuring security of lives and property in the African continent. I thank you very much for granting me this audience and to speak to the people of the Gambia. Thank you very much. Please do.
Thank you very much for that interview. That was the commandant, the head of delegation to the Gambia. That's the DG of the Gambia State Intelligence Service. We'll talk to him in a bit. Just good morning, sir. Could you tell us about how you feel?
Very encouraged, very fulfilled. But must I also start by thanking all here present, starting with the Deputy CDS, General Cham, my friend, the commandant of NIS, the course supervisor, and participants, of course, and my media friends, and the fine men and women of the SIS. Feeling very fulfilled indeed. This is speaking to the agenda we set ourselves in 2017, that is to reform, restructure, and recast the service and increase its credibility. I think this is a testimony that the SIS has indeed reformed, and we are out of the backwaters into the limelight of things, and we are very, very honored that our brothers from Nigeria are here, one of the renowned institutes on the continent with global reputation, has come to recognize us, appreciate us, and accept that we have a capability and capacity to host such an international event. So indeed, we're very honored, very pleased, and very encouraged that the SIS is on track.
Thank you very much. That's sound encouraging. SIS is on track. I'll get back to the studios. I'll hand over to you now, Mr. Balde. That's just you had from the DG and the commandant. So I'll get back to...
Thank you very much, Lolly, for talking to us on this morning. All right, Lolly, comrade there. And of course, from the Banjulinding SIS training facility, a young security officers from Nigeria are here to study, weather, and of course, you know, some of the things, it have to do with their job.
Sure.
Mr. Ade, for me, I find this very interesting, Africa studying in Africa. Africans coming to Africa to study certain things.
It makes a change, and it's a good and positive change. And we have, as he said, a team of 26 from Nigeria, and they also have people deployed in Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, amongst other places where they've gone to study things there. So that's very encouraging. And as he also said there, people might not link climate change with security issues, but when you think about, climate change affects somebody's livelihood, maybe where they used to farm, because of climate change there's no more, they then move into other areas, that then brings conflict. And so these things can be linked, and they are linked.
Absolutely.
And so it's good that they're coming here. And as you said there, we must also apologize for interrupting their program, but it was good to bring them live on this program.
When you look at it, exchanging some studies, from Nigeria to the Gambia, this will also increase the capacity of our own people in this country.
Sure.
Because meeting and interacting, it's another way of, it's a prospective advancement.
I'm I'm very much in support of this kind of exchange of ideas, exchange of expertise. Always been one to promote it, because we always think that we need to go outside of our own continent to learn certain things, but these things are things that are probably unique to the continent. Because if you think about it, things like climate change affecting somebody's where they used to graze their cattle, they can't do it anymore. It affects us across Africa in a major way in so many countries. So we need to be in a position where we can exchange ideas, we can exchange information with other African countries, and of course there'll be a time when we will go to Nigeria, hopefully, and reciprocate in the way that we've invited and hosted them here. And he said there they've been very, very warmly welcomed.
It's something interesting when you talk about climate change. It doesn't only mean protecting. When you talk about security, not only protecting the country or making sure people's lives are protected, but climate. It's also part of security. At some point, making sure it's taken good care of, or how certain things work. It's all part of security. Totally
part of security. I always smile every time, when my journalists used to write about porous borders. And at one point I banned the phrase from any of their reports.
Borders, yes.
But they exist, actually. These borders exist, and so yes, some of them have been imposed by colonial and by colonizers, but they exist. And so if you imagine a situation where, because of climate change, somebody's grazing land is now impacted, they don't think twice about moving into what is effectively another country if there's better grazing land there, and that becomes a security issue. So these things are very much interlinked, and they cannot be ignored.
Exactly. I can remember the president, the PRO of the Gambia Armed Forces was here the other day, Malik Sanyang. We discussed, I mean, we asked him, Malik, why, we've seen recently the army involved in a whole lot of activities, you understand? You've been donating blood, you've been cleaning hospitals, and you have a big farm in Banjulinding. He said, as he said to us, I mean, security doesn't only means maybe taking weapons and trying to protect the country, but food is security. Yep. Donating blood is security. Making sure our place is clean is security. Sure. You know, so I think that was a good one. But Mr. Ade will still go back to the issue of Rwanda. I wanted to ask you this. I mean, we all know Paul Kagame is a dictator.
Is he?
He is.
It's an interesting one. Paul Kagame is president because he has won successive elections. Now, can you call somebody who is a victor in elections a dictator? You might say he's authoritarian. You might accuse him of all sorts of things, but he could point to the fact that there are political parties there. No. For me, it's the lazy thing to call him a dictator.
No, I am not going to agree for the fact that he won a lot of elections. I mean, that doesn't qualify him to be a dictator. We've seen dictators winning elections.
No. Now, you see, this is where it becomes a matter of semantics, of choice of words. Because a dictator will ban political parties. They won't even bother going to the electorate. That's what a dictator does. A dictator does not allow political parties to exist. In Rwanda, there are political parties. Now, if you were to say to me that some of the electoral results in Rwanda are somewhat suspicious, I would agree with you. Because for somebody to say in the last, not the last election, but the one before, Kagame got 97% of the vote.
How long did he rule
Let me finish. He got 97% of the vote. Now, for him to get 97% of the vote, you'd have to say that actually even his opponents voted for him. And that's very unlikely. And so, you know, even I was supposed to have gone this year. So I even argued with my Rwandan friends. I said, look, it's unlikely that even his opponents would have voted for him. Now, as to how long he ruled Rwanda, that's a different matter altogether. Rwanda does not have, as the Gambia doesn't have, you don't have term limits. Somebody can stand 5, 6, 7 times, according to our 97 constitution here, as long as they get elected. There's nothing to stop. That's why the new constitution tried to bring in term limits here in the Gambia. Rwandan constitution does not have that. He could, you know, as Jammeh said, he rules for 1,000 years.
For how long did he rule Rwanda?
He's 28, 29 years, maybe 30 years now.
That's a dictator there.
No,
that's
like I said, when there are no term limits, you can't stop somebody.
Well, I mean, African leaders will always try to juggle with the constitution.
That's different. That's different. I mean, you have countries in Africa where there are dictatorships. We take Cameroon. Cameroon's had independence for, what, 62 years? And they've had 2 presidents in that time, including the current one. You take Equatorial Guinea, what, 42 years now? The president has been, that's effectively a dictatorship because, you know, they ban political parties in those countries for a long time, or they oppress them. That's kind of semi-dictatorship. So, yes, I mean, Kagame has this reputation of being a dictator because of, you know.
The good thing about Kagame, well, I mean, if at all it's that type of a dictator that serves the interests of his people.
That's what I was going to get to. I was going to get to that.
I love that type of a dictator. As far as things are getting right in the country and things are working normal, I mean, it's a matter of not bringing someone who's going to prove, just bringing someone who has empty head.
Well, you know, it's like when I used to argue with some of the supporters of ex-president Yahya Jammeh here in the Gambia. I always used to put this thing to them. For me, every time I described him as a dictator, I would check myself and say, you know, like Kagame, he won elections. So I would say he was authoritarian. But for me, the charge against Jammeh, if you look at the fact that he was here for 22 years, I don't even have to argue the point very forcefully. Show me the infrastructure he left after 22 years. Where is it? Look at our roads, look at our hospitals, our schools. What is his legacy?
He built the National Assembly.
And he put the UTG.
He built the schools.
You know,
he did a lot of schools
Which
here.
schools? You know, look at the state of the schools and schools that don't even have decent teachers. You know, What is the legacy? So for me, those who try and defend him, for me, 22 years of being in power, that is not much of a legacy. You look at every time it rains, the chaos that we have to endure, you know, is that his legacy?
It's terrible.
You know, so, you know, but Kagame, you go to Rwanda and you can see the progress that there's been in the country.
According to one person, he said to me, if you go to Rwanda, our gutters, you can even sit there and eat your food. Can you imagine?
After Cape Verde is the cleenest place in Africa, for me. You know, and so, yeah.
Exactly.
There's progress and it's visible.
Yes, I still want to keep you here.
I'm happy to say, and we can debate either Rwanda or something else, or discuss.
Yeah. The vice president said, if you want, let the president kick me out.
Yes, no, you see that one started with saying, at the top it says best ever cabinet retreat. Based on whose judgment? Whose judgment is that? You know, because, you know, we've had cabinet retreats in the past and so on. This one has generated a lot of discussion. Many people agreeing with the vice president and his statement. Some people taking issue with him, saying that essentially what he did was he named and shamed his cabinet colleagues by saying this ministry is not performing well, that ministry is not performing well. Mr. Mboj and I discussed it yesterday on Drive Time. I don't think that's what he did. He was just using a few examples to say that this ministry can perform better, and these are some of the ways it can perform better. You know, and so, you know, for me, that is, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And so you can't say that this parliament is going to no longer be business as usual. This cabinet is no longer will no longer be business as usual. And then you do business as usual. Then what's the point? So for me, for him to come out and boldly make these statements is no longer a matter of business as usual, you know. And that's what it's about. And he's saying to, and of course, those ministers who did not get named, they'll be thinking, he's named this one, he's named that one. Maybe I might be next. Maybe I might be next. And so it puts them on their toes.
Well, I mean, at some point, you know what I think? I mean, Mr. Ade, sometimes it's good to talk. It's good to hear from our leaders. It's good for them to come out and give people at least something that is happening.
Sure.
But I believe if you put the right structure, when the system starts moving, people will realize definitely this is moving. And who is moving the system? It's the new cabinet, or it's this cabinet moving the system.
Not only that, I think what we want from the new cabinet and what I would have liked to have seen, and I again mentioned this on Drive Time, I would like to see the kind of weekly or monthly reports from our ministers to say this is what I'm doing. Because when you hear a minister's title, minister for this, that and the other, and in Gambia they have some of the longest ministry names, so I won't even bother going there. That's all it says. But you don't know what they do on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, or a quarterly basis. They need to come out every week and say, these are the initiatives that my ministry are doing, and they're going to make a positive change in your lives. We need to hear that. I would have liked to have heard that. And so when we see the final communique from the retreat, if all that is in there, then I'll say, yes, perhaps it was the best ever. But until then, I think we have to hold our judgment.
Yesterday, when Mr. Mboj was here, I said something. I mean, it had to do with the Ministry for Tourism, Arts and Culture. You understand? I think
I heard the debate or the discussion.
Yes. So what do you think? Don't you think we should separate the Ministry of Tourism? We separate arts and culture altogether, because the Ministry of Tourism, they have a lot. They have really a lot to do. I mean, they have a lot to do.
It's interesting because every time I hear this thing saying they should separate them, when they operate separately, you'll then hear people saying, why aren't they working together? Why are they not saying? Because for a lot of countries, take England, take America, a lot of the reason people go there as tourists is actually to enjoy the arts and the culture of those countries, you know? And so, you know, there's not a problem with them being linked. What you could have is that you could have departments within those ministries that have specific jobs. But at some point, we will all be saying, people come here for the arts, they come here for the culture, why are they not joined? So it's one of these ones you can't win. You separate them, people will complain, and you bring them together, people still complain.
When you look at it, I mean, the Ministry of Culture, they have a lot on their plate. I mean, and these things are yet to be digested. I mean, when you look at it, tourists will come to the Gambia, and certain things are not even met. why not you focus only on tourism? Make sure you let another person focus on culture and arts.
No, what you do is you give them the resources to be able to do this big remit that you've given them. It's not about splitting it necessarily, but that's why I said what you could have is you could have separate departments. One that is just on tourism and another which is on, but they come under, because there needs to be that coordination. I think there needs to be a coordination, and you have a single minister who coordinates those two departments, and then you can still have the two departments and they become kind of executive agencies of the ministry, and they have.
And I'll tell you something. I mean,
roles.
I'm not trying to put blames on anybody. I am a citizen of this country as well.
Are you?
Yes. Don't you know? Although people think I'm from Guinea,
I thought you were.
I'm from Guinea-Conakry originally. Yes, but I mean,
yes.
Mr. Ade, people assign certain ministry to certain people.
Yeah.
These are the only people that can run this ministry.
No, I mean, that's never been true. That's never been true. You know, God forbid any minister dies. Do you think they're going to bury the ministry with that minister? Of course not. So that's, I've never subscribed to that. You know, people can always be reshuffled, they can always be moved. And so there's no minister where you could say this person is the only person. That's an impossibility in any country, including here. So there are people who, the president who appoints his ministers might think this is the person I want to run the ministry, fine. But it doesn't mean that this is the only person who can run the ministry. Any ministry you take, there's nobody who's been there for 20 years.
Until you go to a department where they'll be crying, they've moved our director. Our director is the only one who can run this place. Yeah, then corruption is beneath that statement.
But you know, that's a separate.
Thank you, Mr. Ade. Thank you very much. That's the end of the whole discussions here. Now we'll go to what we call entertainment. We'll be back after the break. Then we'll come. We'll have some entertainment with Churchill Balde. We'll be back.
Check out the all-new Tigo 8 at S-Pass Motors. Call 3522-222 or 353-2222 for more information. Cherry. Q Money, the biggest mobile money service in the Gambia, has taken mobile banking to the next level. Now, you can link your Q Money wallet with your bank account. Yes, link your Ajib or EcoBank accounts with your Q Money wallet and get instant access to your cash anytime. No need to queue at the bank anymore. Transfer funds from your bank account to your wallet or your wallet to your bank account using Q Money Bank Link is the fastest, most secure, and convenient way to transfer funds between your wallet and bank account. For more information, call our customer care on 133. Q Money, Sunyu Kalpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Want it? Order for it and pay quickly using QuickPay on the Q Money platform. With great technology comes ease and convenience. Get a glimpse of what a comfortable life is with Q Money by dialing *323# now. Call 133 for more information. Q Money, Sunyu Kalpe.
Well, we are back again, and of course, it is said, all work, no play, make Jack a dull boy. All play, no work, make Jack a dull boy. So we are back again. We'll go straight to click, and we have Churchill Balde. See, boys,
jërëjëf Mr Bale wax naa la soo ma dee introduce léegi da nga war a change introduction bi.
waaw
dafa war a nekk on a high note.
yi boy.
ni tey macha allah.
tey gan bu mag lañ am si studio bi. surprise la moo nekk.
ba pare suma xol dafa fees ni te gan boo xamante la seetaan naa ko depuis tey maa nekk xale.
macha allah
te ma ñëw taxaw jàkkaarloo moom nar ko interview. so man suma xol dafa fees I'm a very big fan. waaw so suma xol dafa fees daal. waaw so gaa ngi di leen di fàttali ne si seen click segment bi leen nekk ngeen ànda man Churchill Balde di seen xarit tey nag click segment bi international la dem ma am fi ndaanaan Père Abdou Guité Seka jërëjëf Père.
jërëjëf Balde maa ngi lay nuyu di la ziar di nuyu mbokk yi nuy seetaan yëpp di am mbégte teew fii ci Gambia rawatina fii ci QTV.
jërëjëf Père. yow doo gan si Gambia macha allah Gambia tàmm nga di fee ñëw so ma laajte la rek yow soo fee ñëw la ngay jàng si Gambia bi.
jërëjëf Balde maa ngi am mbégte ci question boobu. Gambia mën naa ni daara la te li koy firnde mooy li ma indi tey. li ma indi boo ci xuusee ma fekk si la ci.
nga ne wa.
kon Gambie yaakaar naa li ma fi indi tamit mooy diggante nit ak mbokkam. li ma fi indi mooy jaar-jaaru àdduna mooy musique bi nga xam ne moom la yàlla def ci ñun tamit mu tax ay doomi Gàmbi xam ñu di ñu safo di ko déglu di ci dégg ay message yu am solo muy yokk leer ci askan wi.
macha allah loolu daal daanaka leer na soo léegi ñuy laajte yow lan moo la indi si Gambie bi.
oh ok tey nag dafa exceptionnel voyage bi ndaxte dama dugg ndànk kenn yëgut ma am lu may waxtaane lu ñëpp war a yëg nag dama nekk di préparer war a génne suma next album bi ma tàmbaleeg léegi maa ngi ci fukki album ak ñaar jëm ci fukki album ak ñett
macha allah
waaye sant yàlla bii nag way bi ci jëkk dama ko way benn doomu Gambie muy Lamine Anne Mbaye Lamine Anne Mbaye mi ngi États-Unis docteur la génne ci école bi gën a mag ci àdduna muy Harvard University waaye yàlla def mu soqee ko fii ginnaaw fële ci Bushra di ginnaaw Birkama soqee ko ci famille bi nga xam ne ay wëliyu kaamil lañu
kii macha allah xam na Gambie de
nu may def boo yàggee ak doomu Gambie faaw nga xam Gambie
wax dëgg
ma ngoog donc mu soqee ko ci famille bi nga xam ne ay wëliyu kaamil lañu képp ku dégg maam Alaaji Badara Faye ca daara ja ca Bushra bi ca ginnaaw biir kaamam mooy yegsi nga Alaaji Neene Mbay moom mooy baayam yàlla def mu tarbiyu ay waajuram nekk di jàng ci ñoom jàng ba xam alxuraan waaye tamit dem jàng nasaraan ba tey mu doon ca kàngam muy ndamu Afrika di ndamu Gàmbi di ndamu der bu ñuul ndeysaan yàlla boole maak moom ñu wëllërante di demlante cofeel waral tey ma génneel ko way wu bees tàq mu fas yéene nag doon jéego bi jëkk ci suma album bii di ñëw man ni nag balaa Sénégal di ko dégg damay ñëw Gàmbi dégg ko ba noppi
soo dee laa bàyyi nga jot ñu tuuti rek ñamal ñu tuuti rek si wéy boobu
waaw rajo yëpp nag jot nañ ko rajo yu Gambie jot nañ ko ñi ko jotagul nañu xam ni mi ngi egsi waat
ñu ngi ko waajal
ma ngoog te ñi nekk bitim réew wala ñi ko mënee mi ngi ci plateforme yëpp iTunes Amazon Apple et cetera
kon ñu wax ko ne QTV moom mooy noppi Gambia
mooy noppi Gambia
ñun suñ waxee rek jeex na
ñëppay dégg
kon yaakaar naa mënu ma woon jaare ci beneen buntu budul bii sant yàlla waaw woy wa nag la ma cay wax rek mooy bal ba daal dee tàkk na fii ci pencum Gambia Lamine Mbaye Mbasso Alaaji Neene Mbaye baayam diine daal la jiitaloo ak ci lu mu mën doon lamboog pas-pas ak maanduute ngir doon te doon maam ya ñu ni doo séddale di njëkk cëru ndey ji seex moo waral lii Lamine yàgg def mbaax ci li mu moom am na kiiraay waaw ñu dagg ko foofu
macha allah su wéyee rek xool fees
nooy na neex na
duñ def dara dul dem seetaan sa benn morceau ba nga wéy si ay at ñu ñëwaat dellu si waat suñ dellu si waxtaan mu continuer
jeex na
yow laa bëgg yow laa bëgg àndandoo ak mbindeef kenn du ko dindi yow laa bëgg kenn nga ci man te yàlla moom moo seede yow laa bëgg kenn nga ci man ba abadan daiman de yow laa bëgg kenn mënu laa dab ci man ba di la romb yow laa bëgg àndandoo ak mbindeef kenn du ko dindi yow laa bëgg foowe wuloo ma négligé wuloo ma te weddi wuloo ma yow laa bëgg àndandoo ak mbindeef ne du ko dindi yow laa bëgg kenn mënu laa dab ci man ba di la romb yow laa bëgg bëri woonandoo ñooy toogandoo di jógandoo fa may bañ de jëmuloo fa gidelam yow de gidelam yow laa bëgg nekkuloo ci yenn jotaay méngoo nga sa jikko yaay newloo ma tey nga si ci li nga mën a wane bari ndaxte lépp ci yow bu til gidelam yow de gidelam yow laa bëgg ni jigéen bu fi salloo sa jikko ji boo daagoo ñëpp dar laa di wéy sa jaloore ki moo di yaayu tutto Jamilo Virasi jural nga ma samay doom amuloo xaar ma yàlla fa ma xool foofa ngay xool sottante xalaat di jéem ci man ndem sa yaay na mu liggéeyoon tiñ waangeet yéen wi ñëwagul yéen wen ci yoon dinaa jéem sama kéemtalaayu kàttan yow laa bëgg ni am naa dépense mën naa fóone yow laa bëgg mën naa xaalam mën naa riiti yow laa bëgg loo na mati fii lay jox
welcome back jërëjëf jëf studio bi fi nekk ne ñu ngi am fon nik ten daana lañ fi am muy Abdou Guité gis ngeen suma mbala skills yi moo ma nekk di feccaloo yow mu ma fecce nag waaw mu ma feccaloo tey so pour engage la rek yow gis nañ morceau bi rafet na kaar macha allah yow tollool nga jamono bu nga xamante ne mënoon ngaa téye mbalax yi Sénégal mun naa ne àdduna si sa loxo waa ñu tawee rek déggaatuñ la lu waral loolu
waaw li ko waral lu ndaw la man dama gëm ni ndaanaan bu fekkee bis bu nekk mi ngi ci sa kanam ndaanaanam des na artiste dafa war a toog léeg-léeg mu nëbbu ngir gëstu li nga xam ni bu génnee daanu mën a may ko nopp am luñ ci jëlee lu am solo li nga xam ni dana bokk ci luy tabax askan wi ndaxte bu fekkoon way kese mën nañu way bis mu nekk
waaw dëgg ne yàlla
waaye nag boo bëggee way wi nga xam ni day doon wayu àdduna te bañ a doon wayu jamono rek ndax wayu jamono rek mooy su jamono weesoo nga weesu ànd ak moom waaye wayu àdduna mooy boo fi jógee tey way woowu génération yi ñëw buñ ko dégloo may ko nopp bu baax daan ci jëlee lu leen di jëriñ
dinañ si jàng
waaw donc kon boo bëggee def qualité léeg-léeg foog ngay dem xaw a nëbbu tuuti bu noppee nga ñëwaat album bii di ñëw liggéey nañ ko liggéey bu mucc ayib te incha allahu rabbi bu nu delloo Sénégal daan leen yónnee vidéo clip bu Lamine Anne Mbaye mooy way bi nga xam ni moom la ñu ñëwoon jox rajo yi Gambie bu ko defee ñu teg benn tànk ma bàyyi laak li ci biir nga ñu koy gëstu benn par benn ngeen xam ni liggéey dëgg am na ci mbir mi
bala yéen a ngi déggal lu ma wax ba yéen a ngi see jànga mu leen daanaan bés bu nekk su nekkee sa kanam mu war la feeñal di la def lu moo def di ko def kon nekkam daanam des na waaw li wa léegi faw nga laaxu
ñëpp ñu ne anamu rek nga ñëwaat
su ñëwaatee rek waaw mooy loolu waaw ba pare ñu gis tamit ne liggéey nga ak suñ benn artiste fii ñu ko ooyee Mary Ndiaye waaw ñu bëgg a xam kan moo doxal diggante boobu noonu ba ngeen war a génnee morceau bu rafet boobu tuddee ko gum
waaw diggante bi nag ki ko doxal mooy wëllëre wëllëre moo ko doxal ndaxte Mary Ndiaye papaam sunu papa la nekk États-Unis artiste su Sénégal bu ne yóbbu na ko tournée internationale Youssou Ndour ca kaw ba ci xale yi soog a jóg sax képp ki nga xam ni rek def nga tournée internationale wër États-Unis yëpp amaana yàlla bu dee ñaar ñett ci loxoom la lay jaaram muy Abdoulaye Ndiaye ma ànd ak moom fu ne ci États-Unis wër États-Unis yëpp waaw yenn saa yi dañ daan jël one month di yore bus bi di def tournée fépp fu Sénégambien yi nekk ci États-Unis ñu fekk leen fa bégal leen
macha allah
boobu nag mairie doon tout tànk yàlla def mu màgg am cofeel ci musique ma am wareef pour teg sama loxo puus moo tax ma ni ko ubbil naa la sumay bunt mu ñëw yàlla lim ma dénk astuut ma ànd ceeg moom alhamdulilah Sénégal d'accord doomu Gambie yi kontaan waa États-Unis kontaan ma koy ñaanal yàlla yoon wu leer macha allah
macha allah te léegi gis nañ sax ne moom mu ngi def musique ba léegi mu ngi ko continuer ñu ngi gis mu ngi def lu nice bu yàggu ni mu ngi génnee musique vidéo bu rafet waaw soo gis nañ ne yoon bi leer na ba pare soo léegi yow ma laa laajte yow si sa carrière ban song nga foog ne moo nekk sa biggest morceau bi la feeñal bi la ñëpp xamal ba pare nga mu jege sa xol daal
waaw xam nga way wi ma jëkk bind sama àdduna bi ma daan commencé jàng bind amaguma woon fukki at mooy kéemaan la doon noonu kéemaan la doon noon kéemaan la doon noon ci bu yonent yi daan wootal yéefeer yi ci yàlla diine l'islam bi ma bindee way woowu ay nasaraan ñoo jóge bitim réew ñëw dégg ma koy wayantu ñu ni ma lii yaa ko bind ma ni ko waaw maa ko bind ñu daal ni kon dey lii am na lu ci nekk ñu ànd ceeg man loolu mooy groupe wook ñu ànd ak ñoom international dem yàlla def ñu gis benn maison de disque BMG mu signé ñu dugg ci labelam ñu nekk ak ñoom di def tournée internationale dem Olympia jouer Bataclan jouer New Morning dem festival Nuit Métis festival de Marseille yàlla def ma dajante fak ay kàngam ku mel ni Phil Collins Herbie Hancock Buddy Guy Carlos Santana ànd ak Josa Winul dem Montreux Jazz Festival dem Hollande Baden-Baden wër àdduna jàng lu bare ci ñoom loolu nag alhamdulilah mi ngi feeñ tey ci suma musique lépp lu may def rek expérience boobu damay ñëw dugal ko ci mu daal di neex
macha allah lii dinañ ko amaat beneen bés lii waxtaan bi war nañ ko gën a mun a yaatal soo ma bàyyi la nga tàggatoo
jërëjëf
waaw di la wane time bi
lii
la ñu time bi may daal
thank you very much kontaan naa lool wax dëgg yàlla Balde ci sa dalal yaa ngi ma naan père waaye man dama teel a tàmbali bi may am fukki at ak ñaar laa jël sama first groupe bi may dem ànd ak tubaab yi dan ma daan jàpp sama loxo pour yóbbu ma ba aéroport defal ma autorisation parentale bon dama teel tàmbali waaye quand même génération yi soriantoo mu loolu di wane ni kon dese nañ lu bare lu ñu war a wax lu ñu war a def nit ñi gis incha allahu rabbi dañ leen di jox dig daje ci ay fan yii di ñëw waaye xam leen ni daal li ma fi indi daal alhamdulilah bi ma dalee ci KTV Lamine Anne Mbaye seen doom la way wa seen way la Gambia bal ba tàkk na thank you brother
jërëjëf viewers leen amaloon ci click segment bi di leen di dig daje ëllëg incha allah jërë ngeen jëf.
Thank you very much. This is all we have for you until we come here again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.